During the summer months when I was growing up, my father would arrive late in the afternoon from Washington on Fridays, and as soon as he got to Cape Cod, he would want to go straight out and practice sailing maneuvers on the Victura in anticipation of that weekend's races.
But of all the exhibits and the different aspects of this library, the one that I most appreciate is one that we can't see right at the moment, but it's right around the corner, and it is the one thing outside of this building, and that is the Victura, which most of you know as a boat that President Kennedy owned. From my point of view, that was Teddy's boat.
And I have a fond memory, I guess it's a fond memory, of the Victura myself. And I said, Ted, I'm sure that's an honor to be invited to be on your crew in a sailboat race, but I've never been on a sailboat. I think I've seen a picture of a sailboat. I said, I come from Iowa, and the only boat I ever saw were barges on the Mississippi River. We said, there's nothing to it. There's nothing to it.
When we raced in foul weather, there was lots of salt water and lots of salty language. Those experiences not only broadened my vocabulary, sure, but they also built my self-confidence. I saw a lot of his political philosophy in those sailboat races. One thing I noticed was that on the boat, as in this country, there was a role for everybody.
Joe and Rose Kennedy bought this sailboat, Victura, for the family in 1932. The children sailed it all through the 1930s. It's something of it's somewhat amazing that it survived all these years, because in 1936 it was struck by lightning and a hole was blown through the hull. In the 1920s, Joe and Rose Kennedy bought this house, and throughout the 1930s, their children grew up and sailed offshore at Nantucket Sound. They so loved this place that as they grew up, went off to college, got married, they came back, visited, and then began to buy up the houses around it. One of the first was Robert and Ethel Kennedy, who bought a house directly behind. Then Senator John F. Kennedy and his new wife Jacqueline bought a house also behind the main house. Eunice Kennedy and Sergeant Shriver bought a house nearby, as did Jean and her husband, and Ted bought a house. So ever since, in the years since then, the children have been coming back and visiting. The children, the great-grandchildren of Joe and Rose, visiting here to sail just as their parents and grandparents did.
So they could race the Victura and other Weano seniors, in 1964, Robert and Ethel Kennedy bought a sister boat to Victura and called it Resolute. They sailed it for about 40 years until a harbor house fire in 2003 destroyed the Resolute and about 20 other Weano seniors. To preserve the memory of Resolute and Victura, Chris Kennedy, a son of Robert and Ethel, wrote a letter to his children. In it, he wrote, "My grandpa bought a senior for his kids. It was number 94, which meant it was the 94th senior made. My dad learned to sail on it from his older brother Jack. Jack also taught Uncle Teddy how to sail. Teddy taught my brother Joe, and Joe taught me, and I taught you guys. Hopefully, when you're older, you can teach your kids."